I'm not interested in calling everybody. I'm looking to call those that will respond to a high bar challenge.
I mean, and the impact it's had on my life is tremendous. I just would encourage anybody who is, serious about what it means to be a man in today's society when, if you were to go anywhere, everyone will tell you that you're a piece of garbage and, you don't deserve anything because you're a man.
Hello and welcome to the Post-COVID Church. What now? The mission, energizing Christians to engage the lost and hurting in your community. Here's your host, Stuart Kellogg, author of the Post-COVID Church.
Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you joining me today. I Googled men's Christian ministries and got 96 million results. 96 million. So no, this episode is not just about another men's ministry. It's a look at how one man decided to do more than just lament about a big, big problem in the church and in the nation. Rare is a church in America that doesn't boast a men's ministry. The problem is there isn't a lot of evidence that those ministries are changing a damning trend. Pew Research shows women are significantly more faithful to the faith. A couple of examples: far more women say the Christian faith is important in their lives, read the Bible, and attend church. Dean Stinchfield is from Minnesota, and like lots of men today, had a smattering of the Christian faith in his home, but as he said, nothing was firm. After graduating from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, his professional life took off.
Early on in my life, I kind of pursued a purpose of defined manhood more from a power and a economic success model. I kind of ran that play and set a couple of different goals for myself to hit when I was 30, and I hit them when I was 25. And the year 26 was one of the worst years of my life.
The emptiness of material success opened his eyes to popular culture's lies. Scripture is authoritative and not just a storybook. We were created by God and not created from nothing by random chance. And Christ isn't just a good teacher, but Lord. He now knew his life, all his life, had to mirror his faith, or it wasn't real.
So I kind of came to my faith through that lens, more of through mine. I spent a long time pushing it down to the heart as I bend my knee and have an allegiance to Jesus, I'm not just an ally of him when it fits my needs. I need Lord. To be allegiant to him in all areas. Yeah. So that's that lordship track from head to heart. And I'm still working on that, Stuart.
This also meant taking Christ's command to make disciples seriously, starting with his two girls.
I wasn't going to outsource their Christian education to anybody else. So I went down and I was a Sunday school teacher. There was a lot of women down there, not a lot of guys. So I was a human jungle gym. I got just crawling all over me. And I loved it. I was down there and just having fun. And I knew a lot of these guys. About 6-7 years, they started graduating from college. And I stayed with them. From some of these guys, I was their first grade Sunday school teacher. And I'm reading Bible lessons to them while they're sitting on my knee. And now they're 6'4" and playing for college football.
The work wasn't done. Dean was a successful sales leader, but as he said, unfulfilled. He decided to take this discipleship model that works so well in his business world and tie it to his growing faith and make it a focused program for men serious about their walk with Christ. He called it Men of the Kingdom. It's changed men like 27-year-old Alex Schwartz, an account manager for a Minnesota IT staffing firm. He met Dean as one of those first-grade students.
And, no one thinks the way that people that have gone through Men of the Kingdom think. They're very passive. They're very scared about speaking up. They're very, they're just not willing to be that strong and sturdy force, in a place that's very secular. It's a sales job. So it's very financially motivating. And sometimes you have to be that voice in a place where everything is very worldly and secular, and you have to be able to, be able to demonstrate those 5 Ps in a world like that.
We'll get to those 5 Ps in a few minutes. Dean's hands-on work started for John Odom when John was in high school. He's now bivocational. With a PhD, he teaches graduate-level anatomy and physiology courses, and he also pastors a church in Minnesota. He was part of the first Men of the Kingdom program. He has to explain to some of those outside the faith that helping men be stronger doesn't mean demeaning women.
I think toxic masculinity is a term that's really been hijacked by our culture in a lot of different ways. And it's not bad to be masculine. God has a specific design for men and a specific purpose that he has for each and every one of us as men. But this idea of toxic masculinity, I mean, oftentimes there's different definitions of it, but oftentimes one of the things it's referring to is a domineering, abusive power, this dominance and suppressing women at all costs, and just taking the traditional view of manhood to its extremes, right? And to unhealthy extremes.
There's never been a more important time to strengthen men. Almost half of American children are now being raised in a home without a father. Every study confirms that void leads to children with much higher odds of incarceration and mental health issues, and lower rates of graduation and financial stability, just to name a few examples of how men raised with fathers flourished compared to those without. Follow the science. Fathers matter.
Is outside of circumstances and my desires for the moment. And is there something that I have a high calling to my life too, rather than just desires in the moment? And I don't think men really have an understanding of their role in the culture because we've got, over half of men aren't being raised with a man in the home. And those that are in the home, I don't know how many have a biblical view that is projecting authentic manhood in the culture. What does that look like? So I think we have a lot of false images of what is a man and how should a man behave in the culture and what is his role. So everybody's just kind of a little bit that Peter Pan syndrome. I don't want to grow up. And I want what I want right now. So it's a lack of clarity on who they are and what they're called to be.
Men of the Kingdom is focused and demanding. At the end of the 12 weeks, each man develops a project to impact his personal mission field, people he sees regularly. Dean mentors each man.
What I do is I pull together a 12-week kind of intensive mentoring program where we walk through, we clarify what the gospel of the kingdom is. What if there's a king, that means there's a kingdom. So let's look at Jesus and his role as exalted king. And then, okay, what are men to do when we're here on this planet? Okay, we have the 5 Ps.
The first P, protector.
Every man be a protector. From a scriptural standpoint, you are the protector of the home, but how does the world, the flesh, and the devil attack your family, attack the people at work that you might be working with, or they might be working for you, or the different places and spheres of influence you go in your life? How does a man protect? When we look back at Christendom, who evidenced the role of a protector? And the person we use is William Wilberforce, who had 2 great tasks put on his heart: the abolition of slave and the reformation of manners. So William Wilberforce looked at the least and the lost in his culture and said, how can I protect? How can I protect the least and the lost, given the talents that I have, given the affections of my heart? How do I deploy the resources that God has given me to help to be a protector? So that's one of the roles.
The second P, prophet.
Second one is a man should be a prophet. So the prophet comes in and just declares God's truth so people can begin to see through the chaos. And we use, for the prophet, we use Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who helped to clarify what really was at stake in Nazi Germany and spoke truth in the confessing church.
third P, priest.
Then every man should be a priest in his environment. Peter says we're all part of a royalhood, but what a priest really does is he helps connect people to that constant speaking voice of God. He leads them in worship. A priest will lead his family in worship, whether it's in prayer, whether it's going to church, but also as you're walking around, because God's speaking voice is calling out people that's natural within God. But there's so much noise in the environment. A priest will help. It's like tuning a radio to a fine frequency, to the unseen realm and what God is doing. And he helps those in his mission field see where God's at work. So you can ask questions as a priest and to kind of bring knowledge and awareness of who God is and what's he doing. Or simply asking people, what do you think Jesus is doing right now? What's he look like? Where is he? And you slowly begin to take those in your mission field's mind and tune them into Christ on the throne.
The fourth P, provider.
Then every man should be a provider. And, our culture, that's one of the key roles of a dad in a family. You're a provider. It's just an economic tool. Certainly economics are part of it. But the heart of what being a provider is do you know and are you known by those in your mission field? And do you help them to flourish? Do you help them to realize and grow in their relationship with God? I need to know my wife. I need to know my daughters. I need to know the guys that were working for me. And how do I call out to them and help them, position them in such a way that they're connecting with and growing in that discipleship with Christ? And then are they going out and being salt and light?
The fifth P, projector.
And then the fifth P we train guys on is you need to be a projector of a kingdom vision. Every movie you see, every radio song on the radio, every commercial you see, every corporation are projecting some type of truth claim. And what a moral leader does will project, hey, here's what's really happening. 3 eternal questions. If you've ever kind of lost your way, and the 3 eternal questions are: who's your audience? What treasures are you chasing in your life? And what time frame are you living your life under? The fool in Proverbs is always concerned with where the wise person always embeds this moment into a longer environment. So I try to train guys to think of themselves and God's only audience, chase eternal rewards, not temporal rewards. And you're living in a moment that's embedded into eternity.
Now, as I said earlier, lots of churches, probably an overwhelming majority of churches, have men's programs. Dean says this approach is different.
I think we've gone into a little bit of a rut where I think we're pretty good at doing a book study. We're pretty good at having a golf outing or having a lunch and maybe a meat fest. And we're good at doing another book study, and it's kind of a rinse and repeat. There's a role for book studies, and I don't want. We do a book study within Men of the Kingdom. We use A.W. Tozer as our weekly study because you want to provoke men to chasing hard after God. But what we need to do is activate the faith. The taglines of Men of the Kingdom is no passive man, no passive men. So how are you taking what you learn and then deploying it? And if you really want to learn something, you got to teach it. If you really want to learn something, you got to implement it and make it come alive in a 3D environment where you are living it out in your life. And I think men's ministries, they might have a project to go serve, which is a great thing. But are we really training men? And what we need to do is catalyze, and maybe we got to catechize men to catalyze them so that they can then be that salt and light wherever they go all the time, full time. You're always on the front lines. You're always a man, a watchman on the wall.
You're demanding that they do more than show up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I've really been encouraged by, because at least in Men of the Kingdom, I'm not interested in calling everybody. I'm looking to call those that will respond to a high bar challenge. I want people that want that challenge, that want to be pushed outside of their comfort zone, because that's where you're really alive, when you get outside your comfort zone. When you're like, oh, now you're on an adventure with the Holy Spirit, which is like, You're hanging on to a sailboat in a gale force wind, and if the Holy Spirit is involved in something, you can't lose. God plus one's a majority in every situation.
For John, the difference is obvious.
It's truly transformed my life. When I was trying to decide if I was going to leave medical school or not, or, become a pastor, when I'm trying to navigate all these different decisions, having developed my own personal mission statement has been so foundational and pivotal. It helps me just navigate what is it here I'm called to do, and it gives me clarity on the decisions that I need to make according to that. And so it gives me a clear vision of what does it look like for me to personally live out my faith on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, I just encourage guys to do it because it's had a transformative impact in my life and the people around me.
For Alec, the biggest difference is at home.
I mean, and the impact it's had on my life is tremendous. My wife I think she thanks Dino every single day for what he's done, and Men of the Kingdom is one of them. And I don't know, I just would encourage anybody who is, serious about what it means to be a man in today's society when, if you were to go anywhere, everyone will tell you that you're a piece of garbage and, you don't deserve anything because you're a man. But I think that, Men of the Kingdom shows you that it's not that way, and that there really is a revival that is needed in today's society. And I think that's one of the best things that, this group, or I would even say lifestyle, is really instilled.
This is Dean Stinchfield's passion. He's retired and focused on the kingdom, both his project, Men of the Kingdom, and men who are lost without the kingdom.
But spend life with these young guys, and they really want someone that can come alongside them. We're living in a fatherless generation where authentic biblical men haven't been maturing and developing some of these young guys. So there's a thirst for real men to step up. So I'm blessed to have quite a few guys that will work with me, that will come alongside these young guys and help mentor and develop them.
Check out Dean's website at menofthekingdom.com to find out more about the ministry and how you can get involved. And really helping men get involved and grow in their faith must be one of the focus points of the post-COVID church, if it's to truly have an impact in our culture. Thank you for taking the time to learn about this important ministry. Thank you also for listening to What Now?, the Post-COVID Church podcast. If you'd like a copy of my book, The Post-COVID Church, An Action Plan to Thrive, Not Just Survive, you can find the paperback and ebook versions at Amazon.com. Have a great day with the Lord. I'm Stuart Kellogg.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Post-COVID Church, What Now?, with your host, Stuart Kellogg. For more information, visit thepostcovidchurch.com. And you're invited to join the Post-COVID Church Facebook group. Please share the Post-COVID Church podcast with your friends.